What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's PvP Kids IRL, and today I got for you how to build the Western Cavalry without Caesar, like a Chad. So let's dive right on into it because we got a lot to go over today, and bringing at you with, of course, the Excel spreadsheet lined up with the top of the line advice for y'all. So let's dive right on into it. Let's see how PvP's been building his team here in season 2. I want to preface that this is with season 2 cards, and I'm going to go over a couple of the teams in season 1 that you can also build and people to go for as well. So let's start off right here. Let's go with Charlemagne. So Charlemagne, heavy hitter right here, high intelligence. You're going to be wanting to go for those intelligence based builds on him, and you want to go for damage. You don't want to go for healing so much. Of course it can be included in some of the abilities, but let's go over Empire Might, for instance. Empire Might, you deal tactical damage at a rate of 78%, 2 to 3 enemies. Per turn, this is a passive, by the way, goes off no matter what. Also increases your tactical crit chance and tactical crit damage by 6%, stacks up, that's 30% right there, folks. So, turn 5, at the end of it, you are sitting at 30% tactical crit damage. So, Fatal Finale, this pairs up so well. It's obvious, it's recommended as well if you just go on the recommended page. But the reason why it pairs up so well is because Fatal Finale, for every 5 times you deal tactical damage, you will deal an additional 1-time tactical damage to all enemies, 126%. Passive as well goes off no matter what for every time that you deal 5 damage. So, let's just say you hit, you're at that 50-50 where you hit 2 enemies on the first one, 3 on the next. Well, that means Fatal Finale is going to go off. It's on the lower end that it's not going to go off by the end of the second round. It's on the lower end, right? So, high chance it's going to go off right there. And then also you can pair it up with, third ability. So, a lot of different options here. Kind of been playing around all season. But the last one that I'm kind of trying out is War Veteran. Seeing some success with it as well. But the main reason why I like it so much is it's a passive. Goes off 100% of the time as well. So this character, the way I have him built right now, is he is unCCable. That's what's so important. Silence can't affect passives, right? He's a full passive character. So increases your damage you deal by 14% during battle and can be stacked. Lasts until the end. So just, keep stacking up 14% every single turn, no matter what. So, and that's tactical and physical. So, kind of pretty versatile skill right here. You can use it on physical and tactical damage people as well. So really like this setup on him. He's doing very well. Traits real quick, the way I'm set up, wary. I think this is kind of a little bit of a no-brainer whenever you set a kind of a little bit more squishy person as a chief. Really good ability. It's especially against the cleave teams. They're hitting several times. You have more of an ability to dodge those quick kills. So, alertness as well. Just get that 3% reduced damage real quick. Only 172 defense. It's a fair stat modifier. And the intelligence, is really going to prevent him from taking a whole lot of damage from a lot of the, like the Darius teams. And several of the other teams they're also going to be facing as well against Western Cavalry. So, going into Charles right here. Solid card can be built in a couple of different ways. But I think the best way to build them is via support and healing support / a little bit with that damage. So Wise Ruler, kind of running through it, this is the main thing that you want to look at real quick, is it increases tactical damage to all enemies by 4.8%, cannot be purified, so you can't take that off by any means each turn you take action. So Charlemagne, on top of that, he pairs up so well is because he's continuously doing damage. It's command ability, it's not being stopped. So that's 4 abilities that we've gone over already that cannot be CC'd. So each turn you take action, this effect can be stacked and lasts at the end of the battle. You have an 80% chance to deal tactical damage to one enemy, 112%. That's an alright ability, but really what makes it is that increased tactical damage to all enemies. Turning Point as well, I like this ability. I think it's really underused, and kind of exploring with it, it really helps prevent the Kangaskhan Khan teams, the, even with Subtui, if he's running in the back in some cases, Attila the Hun as well. And a lot of the other high damage dealers that are in the back, and in some case, Richard can be paired in the back with the Caesar team. So, starting from turn 4, in the first 3 turns, you get that minus 36% damage. Charlemagne, it doesn't matter, right? It's not about his auto attack, and if you pair him up with Fast Gallop, then he's going to be going off regardless with no act or no auto attacking. So starting from turn 4, you increase your chief's healing and damage by 18%. This can be used on a plethora of teams. You know, like you can use this with Caesar in the Cyrus. You can use this with Cyrus in the back as well. You know, if you pair it up with Xerxes or Hept. So really good ability. I like it. It's a little bit underrated, but I think it helps in the current meta, and it's not being used enough to try to reduce some of that backline damage, like the Genghis Khan and things like that. Noble Knights right here. I think he's the best user of any of the 3 cards, like what we're looking at, of being in the troop skill. I could also use it on Richard as well, and I'll go over that. Increases all attributes by you and your allies by 30%. Reduces the damage taken for the first 6 hits by 50%. This is really important in trying to reduce the cleave damage that is so strong right now between the Genghis Khans. Sub 2i, you know, he's hitting several group attacks and things like that. And that team, the reason why I bring it up is so prevalent right now, right? It is a very prevalent team. And it even helps as well with the Darius damage that comes out and repeatedly ticks you down. So really helps with the initial burst. It does wear off towards the end. But kind of running over Richard real quick. Richard, Crusader Soul. When you and your ally with the highest defense, you take physical damage during battle. You have a 40% chance to deal physical damage back to enemies at a rate of 100%. So this helps counter a little bit with the cleave teams, for instance, that if they're doing damage to you, you can deal damage back. And with the highest defense, as you can see right here, is Charles only has 169, and then Charlemagne has 172 in this instance, and he has a higher just stat modifier in general. So he's going to, no matter what, always be getting. My dog is wanting to get down off my lap. So I like him here with lose-lose. Deal physical damage to yourself, and at the rate of, and you have 70% done to yourself, but you do 140% to the entire enemy team, and lose-lose procs off of Crusader Soul. So that's another reason why this ability has always worked so well on Richard, and you've seen it several times, but that's a little bit of the reason why. Bloody Battle. This is kind of his bread and butter, you know, because paired up with Crusader Soul, you can literally crit on Crusader Soul, even if you're not being targeted. That's the reason why I find it so funny, and whenever you pair this up with Scipio, for instance, it was another great support for him. You know, you can just continuously just synergize between so many different cards and make these people work. So there's a lot of different options. So you gain 4% crit chance and 4% crit damage as well. Stacks up to 5 times and lasts till the end of battle. Then on turn 4, right, 220% to the entire team. That can crit as well. So, diving over traits real quick. Quick-witted, Foresight, Inspiration. Foresight pairs up really well with the crit chance you already get from Bloody Battle, and then Inspiration as well. I like the Intelligence for a little bit of better attack and intelligence. Hey, Charles as well, just kind of running over his traits. I have Lord and Enemy right here. Might as well take some extra damage, right? He has no healing in this instance. You know, if I was running Heaven's Blessing, you know, I'd maybe throw it in. I like to use Concentrated Mind whenever I have at least 2 healing abilities. That's kind of my basis that I would use. And then Motivation increases damage dealt by a random enemy by 3%. All of them benefit from this, even if it just hits on Charles. You know, you're at least getting a little bit of additional damage off of his main. But, you know, you're primarily going to be getting that off of Richard and, of course, on Charlemagne. So, really good team. It's a 20 cost crown, though. That is something to go over. And these are all hard to pull cards. I will mention that these are some of the more harder to get cards. But in Season 2, though, you do get the Conqueror pulls, and you do get, you know, packs throughout the season as well. And with Richard being in Season 1, you get a little bit of benefit as well. So they have no biography. That is to mention, too, there was no created biography for these characters as well. So I do wish they would implement that, but story for another time. Good modifiers, you know, overall. So these are 3 good cards. Now, let's go into the several different options that you can do, right? So, what I'm going to share with y'all real quick is this right here. So, this is the part of the thing that I've been going over and continuously been trying to advance for y'all, as well as the several different options. A lot of people to go through. I'll kind of highlight some of them and, you know, kind of let you stop right here and read through if you really want to of a couple of my opinions about what we've been seeing and a couple of different options. So, you know, right now, we have a lot of different chief options. You know, a lot of these people can be put as chief, or they could just be put as a lieutenant. You know, I think William is the only person here where you have to put him as chief. You know, with his main ability working the way it is, he really needs to be put as chief. Now, brutal selection. Um, my kind of problem with it is he does kill himself whenever he faces Richard, just at all. He just kills himself. You know, unless he's targeting the Scipio in the team or whoever's not has the highest defense every time, then he's gonna kill himself. So he does get countered pretty hard in a cab versus cab situation with Richard. So that's kind of my problem. Brave and Wise goes up really well. He pairs really well with a lot of mixed damage. So Relentless Chase works well with his disarm ability, you know, between auto attacking and proccing several other abilities. I like Long Glacier, targets several people, 50% activation rate, instant active skills. And y'all have probably seen me talk a lot about instant active skills, but they just work so well. You know, in the current meta, the prep turns don't do a whole lot, and you know, like Heavenly Punishment is in the same boat where it does have, but it's not doing as much as I would like it to. I was running Heavenly Punishment on him, thinking that it might help a little bit with the silence ability. It wasn't working out too well. Charlemagne, we just went over him. Wearing alertness, and y'all can kind of read through the traits on the side. I won't really go into that because y'all have probably looked through them before, but y'all pretty much know what they do in general. Richard as well. I do think a more optimized approach is returning in Triumph. It's one of the only times I'll kind of be mentioning, you know, use one of the four main, you know, god characters, you know, between, you know, Ragnar and all these other hard to get cards, right? You can use them in this instance, and they're going to be pretty fleshed out as well. I like War Veteran. Mockery, I think, pairs well with Shared Animosity if you have it, and same thing with Devastating Beauty if you need to use them as a tank in Season 1. You know, you don't have a whole lot of tanks that you're able to just get your hands on. Mockery is a little bit more easily available, so it works well. Lose-Lose you can get from Belarus. It's just tough to kind of get rid of that Belarus in Season 1, you know, right away. But, you know, if you're, you know, of course, spending a little bit of extra dollars, you can get it as well. So, I kind of like ladder a little bit, kind of thrown in there in the Season 1. You know, going into Season 2, ladder is not really that great. I like the ability. I just wish it had a little bit more meat on the bone for me. I like the ability, just I think it needs a little bit more balancing, but I think in Season 1, I think it works well with the Mockery setup. Courage as well, I think he's fine. Alexander, I think, just needs a little bit more, but I think there's some ways you can help him out. I think Lose-Lose, Bloody Battle, Returning Triumph, you know, just those can kind of be thrown on a lot of people, but they do pair well with Alexander. I like War Veteran because by the time his main ability's damage is going off, he already has a huge percentage stat increase that really kicks in and does a lot of damage. Switch Sword Squad Quasher combo, I think that's very good overall. I like Invincible Body on him as Chief because I think it's going to help sustain him and get you through a lot of intelligence-based damage in the current meta right now. I think that will help him out, and of course with Noble Knights as well, he can get up to 80% damage reduction just off of those two abilities right there. So I think that's I think it's a fair combo right there to try and make him work. I like Violent Duel Long Glacier on him as well. That's another just decent combo that you can put on him for a little extra damage. Edward, two different ways you can build him. Swift Onslaught Troop Skill as a lieutenant. It's a fair combo. I don't think it's... Edward's kind of done wrong by his stat distribution, in my opinion. So I think that's a little bit more of what he suffers from is just stat distribution. But it's a fair combo. Reorganized Forces, Invulnerability, Healing Hands, Explosive Overindulgence. Trick and Confuse, I think, can be very good on him. I think that's probably a very underrated skill that I haven't seen a lot of Edwards run with. And I do think Violent Duel would be really good on him with between the soaked and the physical damage. He has fair modifiers in both, so I do think Violent Duel would be good on him, depending on how you use him as Chief. That's a different couple options for y'all there. Frederick, you know, you can kind of pair him up with the Philip combo. I think that's the best way he's going to work. I do think Caesar does him a little bit more justice, you know, in terms of trying to kill yourself, or trying to kill your whole team. I don't like to put Lose-Lose on him because you're mainly going to be using him as Chief in most instances because you don't want to kill your Chief whenever you're using Frederick. So that's what you can run into. I do think War Veteran can get a bit abusive if you do it right. Swiss Sword, Squad Quasher, I do like Invincible Body on him as well. If I would do a Long Glacier, I do like Relentless Chase on him. And Sharpening the Saw, you can't really see it, but Sharpening the Saw on him can just speed the battle up. You know, it can knock it out pretty quick if you start popping it off. So I do like that on him. Scipio as well as lieutenant. I do like him specifically with lore. I'll mention that. I like him with lore a little bit more in this instance. He's kind of obvious, but I think the main thing they call out there is well-deserved credit. I think that's really what makes him so good. And I will throw in the mockery setup with shared animosity, devastating beauty. If you're running mockery in that combo, don't use lore, obviously. Go for the defensive setup, but I think if you're using the well-deserved credit, um, courage, Chief's Call, PMP, weapon compensation. This is a team that's already using a lot of resources. Might as well invest a lot in it. That's the reason why those are there. You could throw those on really any team, but they do work well here. And if he is in the middle, I would say run your troop skill on him. Scipio, or not Scipio, Belarus. Belarus is, besides Bloody Battle and Returning the Triumph, use full actives on him because of the way he works with Scipio. So, if you're using the Scipio Belarus combo, mainly use act. If you're not using him with Scipio, you don't really have to worry too much about full actives. The reason why I like him with full actives is because it gives Scipio's main ability going off on Belarus a lot more chances to go off. So that's that. I do like Tiger's Roar on him with Relentless Chase. That's a fair combo. I think it's a steady thing, and I think that in Season 1, I think that's a very good setup for him. Charles, as well, we kind of go over him. Heaven's Blessing, PMP, Troop Skill, Peerless, Turning Point, Invulnerable, Healing Hands, Justice, Reorganize Forces. I do like him with Laura as well. You can also substitute him with that healing. You can also do Concentrated Mind. Philip, I would build him really no differently than the way I build Charles. I think that they're kind of one and the same, in the instance of what you're using them to accomplish. So, down here at the bottom, though, quickly going over them, and I'll let y'all go. Claudius, I would love to use this card if I had him and had some opportunities to use him. I think that he has some opportunity to be so good. I think he just needs a little bit more meat on the bone, and I think he'd be a great card. You're going to just want to go ahead and pair him with full actives, though. I think he's a really good user of morale boost and healing hands as a support that keeps doing damage. So I like him in that aspect. I mentioned Cynthia and Joan of Arc here, using them as starting cards, and more so, if you're using 2 7-cost crowns, whenever you get up to 17 and you're able to use Cynthia. Use her as you would some of these others with healing hands, well-deserved credit, PMP. Use those. She already has those stat modifiers. Use those commands on her that can soup up your other heroes. Joan of Arc, I would pretty much do no other way as well. Jean, he's probably the only one that I would throw chase abilities on. I don't think he has much of a reason to ever use actives. He make good use of some of his chase-like abilities, and I think that he might do well. Starting, I think that's pretty much it. Bertrand, he's another good user of sharpening the saw, and then whenever you pair him up with something like Swift Sword or even Healing Hands at the start, and using Penetrating Shot and Overwhelm, I think can give you some good options. For a full purple build, and then Rapid Victories, of course, and then you can throw your troop skill on him if he's kind of in that you just need something to throw on him, and you have 2 other good cards. You don't really want to use them for using that troop skill. I would use the troop skill on him, and that's pretty much it, folks. I think that's the best way to build these teams like a Chad. A lot of different options, and I did want to separate it into several different videos. Pair these people up, and you can work with them. I didn't sit there and say that you needed one specific card out of this. If I were to sit here and say you need, I would say William, Charlemagne, and Richard are kind of the key points in these teams, but I would say you can work around without them. You can use the Alexander, Edward. You can piece a lot of these people together and make them work right now fairly well. Do I think they're going to be completely optimized whenever you piece some of these people together? Absolutely not. But I do think that these are the couple of the best setups that you can run for these teams. And if you don't have the gold skills to even run on them, look for the purple counterpart of it, right? There are purple counterparts of most of the ability, Rapid Victories and Penetrating Shot, for instance. So I hope this kind of lays some groundwork for y'all about how to help build some teams, and hopefully it'll get you a little bit more battle merits out there in the PvP fields. So But without further ado, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.